So wait, they studied 3,000 couples and basically found emotional math?
Yeah, and the emotional math is brutal. Like, positivity ratio tells you breakup odds.
Hold up, positivity ratio? Like how fast you say I'm listening versus you're wrong?
Exactly. And they say masters are like 5-to-1 positive to negative during conflict.
5-to-1 is doable, but 8-to-1 for disasters that's a car crash.
And the scary part is, they don't just say be nice. They list the 4 horsemen.
Criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. Okay, that is basically every toxic couple's operating system.
And contempt is the one they say predicts breakup most. Name-calling, sarcasm that cuts.
Bro, I can't believe sarcasm is on the chart like it's a disease progression.
It's funny until it isn't, right? The lab treats it like a loaded weapon.
Stonewalling, too. Like the dude just shuts down and goes silent mid-argument.
They even claim it's more common with men because of physiological flooding and anger aggression.
Flooding is the key word. Adrenaline, cortisol, can't process new information.
So your "I heard you" becomes "I heard survival threats," and then you stop listening.
Okay, but here's my pushback. People act like men stonewall like it's genetics.
Totally fair. Context matters, but the physiology explanation is still useful.
Useful how? Like, what do I do when my palms are sweaty and I'm about to get dumb?
They recommend a timeout, but crucially, don't vanish, set a return time.
So I need a break with ETA, not I'm gone forever, good luck.
Exactly. Around 30 minutes to an hour, maximum 24 hours. No replaying your rebuttal.
Because rehearsing keeps you flooded, so instead of strategizing, you soothe.
Red, move your body. Do email, but not murder mysteries because your brain is fried enough already.
The murder mystery clause is so specific it feels illegal.
It's the tone, man. They're trying to get you out of fight-or-flight loops.
All right, but the episode also had this wild bids for connection thing.
Yeah, little bids like, look at that bird. And partners either turn toward, ignore, or turn away.
I love that because it makes small moments the real relationship battleground.
They said successful couples turn toward bids like 85% of the time.
And unhappy ones only like 33%. That's basically the difference between friendship and roommates.
And if you repeatedly turn someone away, they stop bidding. Then distance grows, loneliness grows, and cheating happens more often.
That chain is so annoying because it feels obvious in hindsight, but nobody treats it like a process.
Right, and the sea anemone metaphor is creepy cute.
Like you poked the anemone and it closes up. Now reconnecting takes forever.
And the big part is, even if you're busy, the other person experiences it as rejection.
This episode was basically a guided tour of how I'm working turns into you don't matter.
It's why rituals of connection matter. Morning check-ins, dinner check-ins.
Rituals are underrated. People think romance is spontaneous, but structure is what keeps it alive.
Also, they push empathy hard, attunement before problem solving.
Empathy as in tell me more, not here's the solution.
Yes, and they contrast blame versus self-description.
Like the kitchen is a mess, not you're lazy.
And then the partner states a positive need. I'd love help with dishes.
That's a big deal because defensiveness is also a predictor, apparently.
In the lab framework, defensiveness often means you're wrong, disguised as I'm not wrong.
Okay. But what about solvable versus unsolvable problems? Because that section sounded depressing.
They claim 60% of problems are not solvable. Perpetual problems repeat for decades.
Perpetual problems are the ones you inherit when you pick a person. Tendencies that annoy you forever.
Like tidy versus messy. They literally describe the books and bedroom cycle.
I was laughing and then my brain went, that's my life.
They suggest compromise methods like the bagel method, inner core non-negotiables, outer flexible details.
And gridlock is when you can't compromise. Then you need those 6 questions to uncover the why.
Beliefs, childhood history, feelings, ideal dream, life purpose, interview each other.
That's basically couples therapy, but with a checklist that forces honesty.
It also stops people from arguing on vibes and starts arguing on underlying values.
Now the part I'm still side-eyeing. Women more unhappily married, and non-cuddlers' awful sex life.
Yeah, it sounds provocative, but the underlying theme is bids for physical closeness and responsiveness.
So cuddling becomes a proxy for safety and attunement, not just a preference.
Exactly. And they also claim hookup culture thriving is a problem because it may not build secure attunement.
I get the intent, but I want data on causality, not just correlation vibes.
Fair. Their whole pitch is they try to move from correlation to causal mechanisms by looking at conflict patterns and physiology.
That's where the Love Lab camera and biomarkers stuff comes in. Heart rate, blood velocity, video time code.
And you can literally watch how a couple responds to bids in real time, not just later they said.
Honestly, the coolest part to me is conflict isn't doomed by disagreement. It's doomed by the style.
Yes, you can raise your voice and still be fine if it's not criticism, contempt, defensiveness, or stonewalling.
So the goal is not never fight, it's never join the four horsemen.
And maybe, this is the takeaway, train yourself to turn toward, not away.
Turning toward feels small, but apparently it's the difference between lifelong love and silent distance.
All right, so what are we doing tomorrow morning? Morning ritual? Bird spotting bids?
If I ignore a bird, I'll hear four horsemen galloping in my head.
Perfect. Next time you feel flooded, you time out with an ETA.
And if I'm tempted to get sarcastic, remind me I'm one contempt away from breakup statistics.
Deal soul. All right, we're gonna wrap it here. Go be annoying to your partner in a wholesome way. Ask, listen, attune.
Yeah, and we'll see you in episode 2 because the gridlock section had one more twist.
Next up, we're diving deeper into how couples build love maps and shared meaning without turning it into forced small talk.
Wait, non-cuddlers have an awful sex life is such a savage headline.
It's like the universe is saying, be emotionally reachable or suffer.
But is that correlation, or do they claim it's causal in the Love Lab?
They're pretty confident on mechanisms, bids for connection, turning toward friendship.
Which is hilarious because people treat sex like a separate spreadsheet.
Yeah, like we cuddled less, so our bodies just stayed broken.
Meanwhile, the study is basically yelling, stop stonewalling your way through intimacy.
And the four horsemen are the anti-foreplay manual.
Explain that ratio thing again. Positivity to negativity like 5-to-1?
Yep, masters during conflict are about 5.1 positivity to negativity. Disasters are around 8.1.
Wait, didn't they say disasters had worse positivity-negativity ratio, not better?
I think you're right to be confused. Maybe the disasters are 8-1 negativity heavy, not 8-1 positivity.
That's the problem with sounding confident while the transcript jitters.
Love Lab isn't here to be poetic. It's here to ruin your sleep.
Okay, but the horsemen themselves are clear. Criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling.
And contempt is the breakup predictor, sarcasm that cuts too deep.
Contempt is when you win the argument by humiliating the person.
I always thought contempt was just being mean, but it's more like superiority as posture.
Also, stonewalling being mostly a guy thing is contentious.
It's not destiny, but the physiological explanation makes it believable. Fight or flight, flooding, cortisol.
Flooding is the key word. When you can't take in new information, you revert to old habits.
Which is why advice like never sleep angry is so useless if you're still flooded at 2 a.m.
Shake hands and go to bed angry sounds like marriage Switzerland.
But their actual recommendation was a timeout with timing specified, right?
I need a break becomes, I'll be back in 30 minutes so you don't feel abandoned.
So the real threat isn't anger, it's emotional rejection.
This ties back to bids for connection. Ignore them, and the relationship starts closing up like an anemone.
I love that metaphor because it's disgusting and cute at the same time.
Do you buy the idea that people stop bidding because they got turned away too many times?
I do, because it matches how humans learn. Reinforcement, then withdrawal, not logic.
But sometimes not noticing isn't rejection, it's just focus, like the work brain example.
True, and that's why they kept emphasizing rituals and signals. This is a good time, not now.
So for someone like me, the ritual would be what? Bird spotting and then checking in?
Exactly. Your love map is basically a zoo itinerary.
I'm one away from becoming a stonewalling legend.
The versus silence point is wild, turning toward his micro-behavior, not grand speeches.
Okay, but does that scale to sex specifically? Like cuddling as a bid?
I think cuddling is a bid. Then sex becomes safer because friendship and attunement are already working.
Still, 96% sounds like we scared the audience into cuddling.
The Love Lab loves exaggeration because it gets attention, but the underlying logic is consistent.
And then they mention women bringing up problems more, 80%, which always triggers debates.
Yeah, people hear that and go straight to women nag mode, which is exhausting.
But the transcript also said 69% of problems aren't solvable, so solved or not shouldn't be the success metric.
That's the most liberating part. If a problem is perpetual, you're not failing, you're just managing mismatch forever.
Perpetual problems are like personality friction, tidy versus messy, tech versus privacy, whatever.
Right, and their bagel method, donut method is about identifying what you can't compromise on versus flexible details.
Outer circle negotiation, inner circle identity protection, like peace treaties for your living room.
But when compromise is impossible, that's gridlock. And then the whole win mentality makes it worse.
That's where the 6 questions come in. Beliefs, childhood, ideal dream, life purpose. Basically, interview your partner.
Interview your partner, then negotiate like adults instead of like lawyers.
Your Honor, my husband's devotion to his laptop is a constitutional right.
Exactly, except it's actually empathy that unlocks compromise.
And empathy is the attunement piece. Awareness turning toward, then tolerance, then understanding, then non-defensive validation.
I want to push on one thing, though. Is defensiveness always a bad sign?
Because sometimes you're defensive because you're actually scared or you feel unsafe, not because you're attacking.
Totally. But the model cares about what it does in conflict. Defensiveness blocks listening and escalates to Horsemen.
So the move is describe your situation and your need, not attack the person and their character.
Yes, I'm upset the kitchen is a mess is different from you're lazy. Same facts, different moral framing.
Couple therapy should be renamed moral sentence rewrites.
Honestly, half of conflict is just word choice plus timing plus physiology.
Which brings us back to love maps and shared meaning. Knowing your partner deeply so bids don't feel random.
Love maps are open-ended questions, right? Values, priorities, what characteristic they want to pass on?
And shared meaning is literally, what is our purpose, not do we both like the same movies.
Dreams don't have to match, but you must honor them and not force one dream to erase the other.
That couple with Switzerland and Uganda, no compromise, and they broke up for good reasons. People hate that nuance.
People want romance slogans, but sometimes reality is incompatible needs.
Okay, so the energy takeaway is prevent Horsemen, respond to bids, and accept perpetual problems.
And if you feel flooded, time out, ite, soothe, then return without planning your rebuttal.
If we're honest, that's less fix relationship and more stop doing the self-sabotage loops.
Self-sabotage loops are just 4 Horsemen cosplay, honestly.
Great. Now I can diagnose contempt in myself as sarcasm with a scalpel's budget.
Exactly. Go be annoying to your partner in a wholesome way. Ask, listen, attune.
And when you miss the bid, come back. Don't let distance become the default language.
All right, we'll wrap it here. Episode 2 is where we get into love maps and shared meaning without turning it into forced small talk.
Next episode, we also tackle how couples handle gridlock when both people think they're just being practical.
See you then.
And yes, we'll keep the chaos, only smarter.
Wait, the part about kissing and longevity is making me rethink my calendar.
Same, my commute now feels like it should include emotional affection checkpoints.
But the real gut punch is 69% of problems aren't solvable, right?
Yeah, and if you measure success by solving issues, you'll always rate poorly.
So it's not fix the relationship, it's learn to manage the permanent bugs.
Permanent bugs is the most honest framing I've ever heard for marriage.
Okay, but how do you know which bugs are solvable versus perpetual?
In their model, perpetual problems repeat over time and become the same fight wearing new shoes.
And the Love Lab basically watches people for the patterns, like conflict telemetry.
Conflict telemetry. Love Lab is basically relationship engineering with heart rate sensors.
Meanwhile, normal couples therapy feels like vibes and reflective listening suffering.
Right. Because if the therapist doesn't stop criticism and contempt, you're just letting the knife sharpen.
Tell me more, while contempt is being served hot and fresh. Genius.
The 4 Horsemen stuff explains why listening alone can fail catastrophically.
Criticism, defensiveness, contempt, stonewalling, those are the breakup DLCs.
Exactly. Like the relationship installs the update, and now nothing works.
I'm hung up on the positivity to negativity ratio, though. 5-1 versus 8-1.
8-1 sounds like it means disaster couples are still positive sometimes, just not enough.
Or they're positive in calm moments, but during conflict, they sprint into negativity.
That's why bids for connection matter, because ignoring bids slowly kills the friendship.
The bird outside the window example is dangerously relatable.
Cool is basically marital magic, apparently.
But isn't that too small to matter? Like, does one acknowledgement really move the needle?
The lab shows the aggregate effect. When bids get turned away repeatedly, distance becomes habit.
Distance becomes the default language, should be printed on wedding vows.
And the sea anemone metaphor, refuse bids and the fingers close, feels accurate.
Okay, but what about people like me who miss a bid unintentionally?
They're not monsters, but the partner still gets the sting, so repair matters.
Repair as in, sorry I was in laptop mode? Or repair as in a full ritual reboot?
Start with the small repair, then build a ritual so your partner trusts the availability.
Ritual around connection is the part I actually want to steal.
Like checking in the morning and at dinner, almost like scheduled attunement.
Dinner, emotional syncing version 2.0.
Don't make it sound like software or people will ghost.
But this attunement framework, awareness, turning toward tolerance, really reframes conflict.
I liked the no-blame distinction. Describe self, describe situation, then positive need.
I'd love it if you helped with the dishes, is so much kinder than you never help.
The emotional tone is doing the heavy lifting, not the sentence structure.
And defensiveness is basically auto-sabotage, right? Throw it back, deny, attack.
But sometimes defensiveness feels like self-protection, not sabotage.
True, but in the lab framing, it blocks empathy and turns a conversation into a trial.
Also, flooding explains why people can't just talk it out when stressed.
Fight or flight means you're not absorbing new info. You're stuck in survival mode.
Which is why stonewalling, especially shutting down, isn't just being difficult.
It's like your brain files a no more inputs request to the universe.
Then the practical advice is timeouts, but with a return plan so it's not abandonment.
I need a break versus I'll come back in an hour is such a difference maker.
One sentence says safety, the other says hostage negotiation.
Hostage negotiation is a brutal relationship branding.
Coming back is basically continuing the connection channel, not severing it.
The gender part, though, men stonewall more, women get more unhappily married. Does it sound deterministic to you?
A bit, yeah, but the framework is about physiology and typical patterns, not destiny.
And the unhappy because bids keep getting missed story could apply to anyone.
Exactly, it's the relationship dynamics, not a horoscope.
Also, non-cuddlers had awful sex life. Come on, that's direct.
It's wild how affection predicts intimacy instead of intimacy just being vibes.
And connection through friendship creates passion and good sex, according to their chain.
Which makes sense. If you treat affection as a solve-later task, you starve the system.
We'll cuddle once we fix the argument backlog is toxic project management.
That's why they emphasize turning toward even tiny bids before resentment scales.
But how do you teach people to turn toward when their default is annoyance?
You practice empathy, attune, ask questions, and replace criticism with a specific need.
And for gridlock, they introduce those 6 questions: beliefs, history, feelings, ideal, wish, and life purpose.
Gridlock is basically arguing about the surface because neither person wants to expose the core.
So you uncover what the position really protects, then compromise becomes possible.
Even with incompatible dreams, they say you don't need alignment. Sometimes you need understanding and boundaries.
Yeah, the Switzerland versus Uganda example was heartbreaking but clarifying.
It's not every conflict that wants to be solved. Some want to be respected.
Respect the conflict sounds like therapy for people who hate therapy.
Honestly, it's still action, just not the naive action of forcing a single outcome.
The meta theme for me is relationships survive through micro behaviors, not dramatic speeches.
And when you catch yourself in 4 Horsemen mode, you don't argue harder. You change the pattern.
So if I feel contempt rising, I should stop and, recalibrate to curiosity?
Yes, curiosity instead of superiority, and kindness instead of keeping score.
Keeping score is my villain origin story, apparently.
And if you're stonewalling, the move is to pause, regulate, then return with a plan.
Okay, I feel like we just built an instruction manual out of chaos.
Don't worry, the manual won't read like a manual in the next episode.
True. Next episode is love maps and shared meaning, not awkward check-ins.
All right, that's it for today. Go be a little less hostile in your own head.
And tonight, turn toward one tiny bid, bird outside the window included.
Exactly. See you in episode 2, where we keep the chaos but add love maps and shared meaning.
Coming next, how successful couples remember what matters and build meaning together.
I keep getting stuck on the bids thing. It sounds small, but it's everything.
Because it's basically dopamine management for relationships, right? Tiny turn toward signals.
You just described marriage like it's product onboarding.
Not wrong, though. Ignore the bid, and the whole system starts drifting.
The scariest part is when they said people stop bidding because it hurts.
That's the feedback loop nobody talks about. Rejection makes you retreat. Retreat makes more rejection.
And then people act surprised when the distance becomes normal.
Normal is just unattended maintenance with better PR.
Okay, but I want to push on the research vibe. How causal is all this?
Yeah, because 3,000 couples in a lab is intense, but humans are messy animals.
Fair, but the pattern was like positivity ratios and then breakup predictors.
The 4 Horsemen framing makes it feel like a physics problem.
Criticism, defensiveness, contempt, stonewalling. Why does contempt feel like the boss fight?
Because it's superiority, and superiority kills safety instantly.
I'm better than you is basically emotional arson.
Contempt is worse than yelling, because yelling is heat. Contempt is identity damage.
That's a line I'm stealing and putting on a mug.
Also, the positivity to negativity ratio, 5-1 masters, disaster couples around 8-1 average negativity.
Wait, did they say 8-1 means negativity dominates, or did I misunderstand the direction?
My understanding, it's seconds of good stuff divided by seconds of hostile stuff. Higher numbers means healthier conflict.
Cool. So the metric is time spent in repair behaviors versus damage behaviors.
Exactly. And the sneaky part is repair can be micro, humor, curiosity, validation.
Meanwhile, we're out here thinking repair needs a TED Talk apology.
Repair is tell me more, not let me explain my childhood trauma.
Defensive mode is brutal, though, because you feel attacked even when you're just getting feedback.
And therapists sometimes miss that, right? They'll reflect back like it's a neutral process.
That therapist example where she summarizes instead of stopping the insult, yeah, that's malpractice vibes.
Now I will empathize with your criticism. Like empathy can launder contempt.
Empathy plus disrespect is just expensive disrespect.
The other huge thing is flooding. When your body flips to fight or flight, learning dies.
That's why logic in arguments is useless. Your brain is basically on survival mode.
And they said men stonewall more. Not just emotionally avoidant, but physiology and longer ramp down.
I buy physiology, but I don't love the gender certainty. Humans vary wildly.
Sure, but the trend is plausible. Men more hypervigilant, women more oxytocin calming tendencies.
Translation. Some people shut down because their inner saber-toothed tiger just won't clock out.
Exactly. Your nervous system thinks the fight is physical, so it treats it like one.
That timeout advice was actually practical. Name it, schedule it. Don't make it abandonment theater.
I need a break versus I need a break for how long. The second one builds safety.
Do you think people do that, though? Or do they just disappear and call it space?
They disappear, and then the other person gets flooded harder. Because now it's rejection plus uncertainty.
That links back to bids. Stonewalling is basically repeated bid rejection.
It's like the relationship version of seen without a follow-up message.
Brutal, but accurate.
And the Love Lab even connected this to long-term outcomes like sex life and unhappiness patterns.
The non-cuddlers have an awful sex life stat was aggressive, but it makes sense.
I do wonder about selection effects. Like people who aren't affectionate also aren't safe emotionally.
Still, the mechanism is plausible. Touch, safety, bonding hormones, less stress, more desire.
And even kissing before work, 4 years longer for men. Like that's wild, but it's consistent with turning toward micro-habits.
It turns romantic gestures into public health interventions.
Gym for the soul, basically. Nobody trains that part.
Yeah, the point about parents divorced and reduced lifespan, people should not treat love like a hobby.
Love maps and shared meaning are the how next, but bids and horsemen are the what breaks it.
I like how they differentiate solvable problems from perpetual ones.
Because 6D unsolvable means you stop chasing fix and start building adaptation and humor.
Relationship, 69% acceptance, 31% engineering. Finally, math I can respect.
And when it's perpetual, you don't win. You compromise around inner core versus outer circle details.
That bagel method is actually nice because it prevents "you're trying to change me" from hijacking the fight.
But gridlock is where you can't compromise. So you have to ask those 6 questions to find the beliefs and values underneath.
Surface arguments are exhausting because you never reach the real issue, like it's tech, but it's identity, freedom, purpose.
Right. You interview each other instead of performing a debate.
I want that on a t-shirt. Stop debating, start interviewing.
And the best part is it kills contempt, because you start seeing the other person's logic as human.
Which loops us right back to turning toward bids. Attention is the oxygen.
Oxygen, safety, and repair. If you can keep doing those, arguments don't have to be doomed.
Unless you bring all 4 horsemen, then it's basically apocalypse speed running.
Horsemen. Criticism, defensiveness, contempt, stonewalling. Combo moves with guaranteed game over.
All right, I'm convinced enough to try one thing tonight. Respond to one tiny bid on purpose.
Same. 1 bid, 1 turn toward. Then if we flood, time out with a return plan.
Deal. Love lab chaos out in the wild.
Exactly. Less hostile, more connected. Then we sleep like adults.
And if you miss a bid, repair fast. Don't let distance turn into a habit.
All right, we'll see you in episode 2. Love maps and shared meaning, the what to look at part.
Coming up next, how successful couples remember what matters and keep the friendship alive. Okay, the bid thing is making me feel called out, honestly.
Good, because the research basically says you turned away equals you pay later.
Not in a dramatic way, more like it slowly builds distance like mold.
Exactly. Not mold emotionally, but like emotional carpet that never gets vacuumed.
But I want to understand the mechanism. Why do tiny bids matter so much?
Because it's not the bid, it's the pattern. Turning toward versus turning away repeatedly.
And the turn away becomes a habit so the other person stops offering bids.
Relationship economy. Supply goes down, then loneliness shows up to collect debt.
Loneliness shows up is a crazy line, but it feels accurate.
And once bids stop, the friendship thins. Then passion and sex get weird, correlated, not magic.
So is the sex part causal or just the vibe decline, basically?
The Love Lab folks talk like it's interconnected. Friendship supports passion, supports sex.
I love how science gently roasts people. Your sex life is an output, not a checkbox.
Also, they brought the wild claim about non-cuddlers having an awful sex life.
Wait, 96%? That's not a study, that's a boss fight.
Right? Like the universe is saying, cuddle or suffer, which is morally questionable.
But maybe it's proxy behavior. People who don't cuddle avoid connection in general.
That would fit the bid framework. Less touch, fewer turns toward, more walls.
And the sex life isn't about technique, it's about emotional safety and attunement.
Yes. Attunement is literally tuning instruments, like when you're matched. The conversation resonates.
I keep picturing 2 synths, not 2 humans, and it's weirdly helpful.
Same, but then contempt enters and it's like detuning on purpose.
Contempt is terrifying because it predicts breakup, like the worst predictor.
The 4 horsemen aren't arguments. They're argument operating systems.
Okay, walk me through them like I'm a software engineer debugging my relationship code.
Criticism, defensiveness, contempt, stonewalling. If those show up, positivity goes negative fast.
I get criticism and defensiveness, but contempt feels indulgent.
Contempt is like, I'm superior and you're inferior, dressed up as jokes or superiority.
And stonewalling, especially men shutting down, seems like avoidance with a scoreboard.
What did they say about physiology? Guys more flooded, hearing compromised, can't take new info.
That explains why "just discuss it" turns into a brick wall at 11:48 p.m.
Because when you're flooded, your brain won't learn. It only survives the moment.
That's why timeouts work, if you set a return plan and don't abandon.
Though go to bed angry is basically telling people to marinate in cortisol.
St. Paul, sir, you are not in couples therapy lab conditions.
Exactly. The lab version is break, soothe, come back, don't rehearse your rebuttal.
Rehearsing rebuttal keeps flooding running, like rerunning a failed render.
Relationship CPU stays at 100. Then you wonder why you can't process empathy.
Okay, but how do you interrupt the four horsemen in real time?
Start with one tiny turn toward, like acknowledging a bid before you go to war.
Tiny bid is the relationship equivalent of diffusing a bomb with kindness.
And then, if you're flooded, do the break with I'll be back in X minutes.
I like that it's not spiritual advice, it's actionable choreography.
But choreography only works if people agree to it when calm, not after chaos starts.
True. Rituals of connection basically preload the system so it's easier later.
Morning check-in, dinner check-in, asking, what can I do this week to feel loved? That kind of stuff.
That sounds annoyingly wholesome, which means it probably works.
It's also love maps, knowing your partner's inner world, not just their job title.
And open-ended questions with paragraph answers, not one-word interrogation.
What values would you pass down? That's terrifying and beautiful.
I'd panic, then answer honestly, then regret it later. Classic couple activity.
Regret? No. Shared meaning requires emotional risk, sweaty palms, and all.
Speaking of risk, the solvable versus unsolvable problems part is brutal.
They claim 60 is not solvable, so you stop treating every fight like a fixable bug.
Some couples don't have arguments. They have recurring content releases.
Perpetual problems. Tidy versus sloppy, phones versus attention, dreams mismatch. Those are long-term agreements.
That bagel method, inner circle bones versus outer circle details, sounds like diplomacy.
It's compromise with boundaries, not compromise with surrender.
And for gridlock, it's not win the battle. It's understand the position behind the position.
The 6 questions, beliefs, childhood, feelings, ideal dream, basically forensic empathy.
If someone doesn't want empathy, they can weaponize these questions too, right?
Sure, but then you've just created a more polite form of the 4 horsemen.
Polite criticism, contempty kindness, great.
The goal is attunement. Describe self, share situation, state positive need, avoid blame.
That I love it when you tell me example was clean, positive framing as reinforcement.
Yeah, because your brain hears what to do more of, not you're wrong again.
Defensiveness is such an easy trap, especially when you feel evaluated.
And the partner feels like a child being scolded, so they push back or shut down.
Which loops back to stonewalling and the whole doom ratio thing.
Masters had positivity to negativity of 5-1 or higher during conflict.
5-1? That's like not be calm? That's actively be warm while arguing.
Yeah, arguing while insulting is different from arguing while collaborating.
Okay, so tonight's experiment, I acknowledge one bid, stop rehearsing, and if flooded, time out with return.
And if you catch criticism starting, switch to how I feel and a specific positive need.
I can do that. One tiny bid tonight, then we'll see if the 4 horsemen lose their entrance pass.
Deal. We're building love maps and deleting contempt, one small move at a time.
Honestly, it feels less hopeless than I thought.
Because the whole point is, relationships can be redesigned, not just endured.
All right, let's roll into it, but not sleep on the couch like teenagers.